Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to take a look at Stampin' Up's new markers. They're called Stampin Blends, and they are the most popular request I have gotten for a product review in the last couple of months. So I decided to get a set of these to review for you, and we'll take a look at them. So I've had them for about a month. I did swatch them out. So the thing about these markers is there are there's 24 of the basic markers, but it's really 12 Stampin' Up colors and a light and dark version of each of those 12 colors. So you don't have to really practice and think about what's going to blend because there's a light and a dark version of each color. So it kind of takes that guesswork out of it. So that's kind of nice. You do get a nice variety of colors here if you get them all. Now I will tell you the markers are $4 each, and you don't get a deal by buying the whole set. It's the same price. So $4 each whether you buy them in a 2-pack or in a 24-pack, or well, I think it's a 27-pack because there's 3 other markers too. But you pay the same price any way you slice it. So when one dries up and you need to replace it, you just buy that one marker for the same price you'd pay even if you bought in a set. So they're $4 a piece. 12 different blending families, and then there is also a bronze, an ivory, and I think those are probably to flesh out the skin tone shades, and there's also a clear marker. They call it a color lifter, which I think is kind of smart because really the clear markers, we're more likely to use those to highlight or to erase a color than we are to actually blend a color, so I think that's smart that they labeled it that way. So I like that this is really simple. That's probably my biggest pro to this set. They do blend well, and let's take a look at the marker. So I got a piece of just cardstock here to blend on, and I haven't tried any of the Stampin' Up cardstocks with these markers because I didn't have any of their new stuff, and I didn't have any white of their old stuff either. So I'm using Nina cardstock, which is a pretty standard one for people to use with markers. So if we take a look at the marker, we've got dark is this cherry cobbler and light cherry cobbler. So on one end we have a brush tip. You can see that it's very pointy. It is a fiber tip, like a felt tip, rather than a foam tip like a Copic. This is more like, actually the tips remind me a lot of the chameleon pen tips here. I'll show you, except the Stampin' Up ones are larger, but they're flexible, kind of like a Japanese nib. And I think that the brush tips are good for blending and doing large areas, and then if you need to get into a smaller area, I'd use the bullet tip, and not necessarily because the tip is finer. I mean, that does have a small tip on it. It's just the brush tip puts out so much ink that that if you are trying to get in a small area, it can be difficult because the brush tip puts out too much ink. So using a bullet tip will help you there. I will show you a couple things that I have colored with them. Let's see if do these peg? Yep, and the caps peg on the other end, which is nice so you don't lose your cap. That's kind of a pet peeve. Recently I've noticed if the cap doesn't fit on the opposite end, I drop them and it's just kind of annoying. So I did color a few things with these, and I do have a video tutorial on these cards. They color really well, they blend really well. These are very small images, and you can see I was able to get into those details quite well there. And we've got that little unicorn, and that was done with like the light pinks, but then also white to blend it out. So, you know, you can get some good detail there. So what I like to do for blending is I like to go in with my dark color and put a little swatch down there, and then I like to go in with my lighter color and kind of go over the dark and blend it out that way. Now let's see about blending this color into that. They do index, they do tell you what side is the brush. Oh, that's pretty, I don't know if that'll blend in there. That's pretty dark. The caps do pull off kind of, you know, they're on there firmly, but they have grips on them, so I don't feel like it's hard to get them on and off. They have a very flexible tip. I did try, I'm not a brush letterer, I did try to do a little brush lettering, and I'll show you that on my swatch there. But I don't think they're the best for brush lettering because they don't spring. They go kind of limp when you color. They'll kind of, I'll show you here, maybe it will, they kind of bend a little bit. They just don't have a spring to them. They're not as flexible as like a Copic marker. But these are $4 a pop versus whatever a Copic marker is going for nowadays. You can just kind of see there, maybe you can, maybe if I bring this up a little bit, just like the tip will just kind of tip over a little bit. They just don't spring back. They color fine, they blend great, they just don't have that spring to them. And we'll go into that later. Green. I guess we don't need to do this for every marker because it's pretty obvious how they work. Oh, greens blend pretty well. But it's a really nice variety of colors, and I'll show you the bullet tips here too. So it's not a super fine tip, but I was able to color those tiny images that I showed you, and they work just fine. So. And there are colors that are fairly close together, like the Bermuda Bays and the pool parties. Like, I feel like you could probably with those go, like, do a great big long blend with them. Let's try that. So this is dark Bermuda Bay. Then we'll go to light Bermuda Bay. Then we can go to dark pool party. And some people like to color light to dark, and that's fine too. Do whatever works best for you. And we'll go to light pool party. So these are not refillable. They are a disposable marker, but you know, it's kind of be expected for a $4 marker. But then again, let's look at the $4 price point. So for $4, that's about the same price as a Winsor & Newton Pro marker or a Prismacolor brush marker. Which have foam tips, so the tips might hold up a little bit more on them, but they're also not a refillable marker. So really, just gonna make sure your tips last as long as your marker. You know, I think if you love the Stampin' Up color line, you know, they're a good buy. I wish there was a discount if you bought a big set, because you know that's always nice. Like if you're taking the plunge, if you buy the whole set, it's nice to be able to get a deal, but. That's not the direction they went in. So this is the color lifter marker, and I'm just kind of doing a line across to see it lift out some color here. So that's nice. Even on those bright colors like red that are difficult to lift usually, they come up pretty well. And I can show you the lifting on these other marker swatches here. So it did a really nice job. I think if you use a lot of Stampin' Up like cardstocks and inks and products like that, and you want to have markers in the same color range, these are great. I think if you are new to marker coloring and you struggle with finding colors that blend, this takes the guesswork out. Letraset used to have these sets of blending markers, and they came in 12 packs or 13 packs. I think it was 13 packs because it was 12 colors and a blender, and they were designed to have a color to blend with. Every color had a color to blend with, and I thought that was brilliant, and I don't know why they didn't last. But that's kind of what they've done here, and I like that it takes the guesswork out. And if you love the Stampin' Up colors, these are great. This is a great option. And even if you're not a big Stampin' Up fan, I think they're decent markers. I don't think that the nibs are going to last terribly long, but I think they should last as long as there's ink in there. And although they're not, as flexible like a foam nib, they don't seem to be fraying yet. I've probably used the green one the most. Let me take a look at that, see if there's any damage or fraying. I don't see any fraying here. They seem to be more kind of like sanded down to a point, more so than like the Studio 71 markers that are a lot cheaper, but they tend to, the tips I do notice can start to get worn a little bit on those, because they're more of like, the brush tip is almost bullet shaped and not pointy shaped like this. So I think that might help it keep its point a lot longer. For $4 a marker, I don't think it's a terrible price. I mean, obviously you can't just run into the store and buy these. You have to order them from a Stampin' Up demonstrator. But and so there's no like discounts or coupons. But I do know that they have their Sale-a-Bration going on, and a lot of people like to order this time of year because when you spend $50, you get a free product. So that's another reason I wanted to get this out, just in case anybody was waiting to see how these were before they ordered, because they wanted to, they wanted to get markers, and they also wanted to get, the free Sale-a-Bration stuff. I say if you need some markers, they're good. They blend well. If you like the Stampin' Up colors, I think the color selection is really nice. And they're not a bad price for a brush tip marker, really. And the fact that it takes the guesswork out of blending, I really like that. Now, are they the best deal? Well, I'd probably say they're not the best, the most affordable option, because like the Studio 71s are very inexpensive. Like you can get 48 for less than $50. You know, so that's a great deal, but you have to know a little bit more about color theory and color blending to get some good results from them, or do a lot of experimenting, which is half the fun, I think. But if you want something that's just going to be pretty foolproof, these are a great option. Like I mentioned before, you can get these from your local Stampin' Up demonstrator. If you don't have one, I will link below to my Stampin' Up demonstrator, Wendy Cranford. She is at lovinstampin.com, and she would be more than happy to help you out. You can order right through the Stampin' Up website. If you don't have a demonstrator to go through, I think you pay like 10% more, so you can always use my girl Wendy if you want to, so you don't have to pay that 10%. And she's awfully nice too. She has a lot of wonderful you know, wonderful free tutorials on her website that you can check out. And there you have it. I mean, I've reviewed so many markers. I've used so many markers that, you know, it's hard for me to say these markers will change your life, you know, but they're absolutely good. They're absolutely fine. I love the color selection, and I don't think you'd go wrong. But then again, let me just say, if you have markers already, these are not going to rock your socks off. You know, if you already have a set of markers, use those markers, right? If you need markers, these are a good option. If you struggle with color blending, these are a good option. I want to just give these, I just want to see how hard these are to pull off. Let me, and put back, they're harder to put back on than to pull off, to be completely honest. So I just like to mention that, and you do have to have them on, like, going the right way, because they won't go on if you have them turned the wrong way. So you do have to line them up and give them a pretty good push. Let me see. I know this probably seems a little nitpicky. You know, if you press them on the table, it's a little bit easier, but I like to test that out because I know a lot of my viewers have some strength issues and arthritis, and I just want to make sure that they don't get them home and decide that they can't get the caps back on them tightly and then they dry out. So they do snap when the caps will go back on. Use your table to push them on. It's a little bit easier, and they seem to come off all right, but they're not going to come off accidentally in your bag. I've had that happen before with other brands. So yeah, I would say go for it if you wanted these markers, but you just wanted to see how good they were first. I think they're good. I think they're going to blend well for you, and they take the guesswork out. And I like that you can buy an individual marker if one goes dry, or if you lose one, or your kids, you know, are rough with them and they damage the tip or something. You don't have to buy a whole set, and that's really nice, because a lot of times they're less expensive markers, you know, and these aren't really less expensive markers. These are moderately priced markers. A lot of times your markers come in sets only, and then you're kind of out of luck. You have to find a comparable marker from another company that sells open stock when you want to replace it. So I give them a thumbs up, honestly. I probably, you know, I was very curious about these, and I got these because I had so many requests for them, but because I have so many markers, I probably wouldn't have gotten them if I didn't have so many requests for them. But yeah, I think they're a good buy. I think they're a good buy. $4 each. You can build your collection slowly, or you can buy them all in one pop and do it that way. So there you have it. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment down below and I'll help you out the best as I can, or you can contact my friend Wendy, who sells Stampin' Up, and she can help you out with anything you need. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy crafting.